That's right. This is Reels and Heels, and I controlled the show. I did a pretty good job.
You did a good job.
I had to make sure that everybody knew that we were going live, because otherwise, Brian Rodman knows exactly how temperamental Facebook can be.
Willow was like, executive decision. We're doing this. Let's go.
I enjoy conversations as much as the next person, but let's go live. All right. Well, Brian, Nicole, you have the floor.
Okay, so I do want to run a quick promo that our friend Kelly had sent over. She's doing a virtual show, and I'd like to run this promo right now.
Hello there, super friends. I'm Kelly Gittner of Phoenix Sisters Cosplay and Back Issue Breakfast Club on the Back of the Cereal Box Network. Or you might just know me because you're interested in the Virtual Super Friend Celebration. If you don't know what the Virtual Super Friend Celebration is, I'm here to tell you about it. This is a perfectly free virtual convention that's coming up Friday, June 11th through Sunday, June 13th. This will be hosted on Phoenix Sisters Cosplay, our YouTube, and our Facebook. So links down here. And this convention, it's completely free for you to participate in. You can log in and watch the live streams, or you can watch the reruns if you don't have the time to watch the live streams. If you watch live streams, there is an audience participation aspect. This con is also a charity, and we are supporting the Actors Fund. And the reason we chose this charity is because the Actors Fund benefits, we're not talking about the blockbuster actors that are bringing in millions of dollars or billions of dollars per film. We are talking about people in the entertainment industry who were hit hard by this last year, or who were hit hard by other hard times. The Actors Fund is there for them, because raising money for a good cause, and you're getting a whole weekend's worth of entertainment, all from the comfort of your living room. So what more could you ask for, really? I hope you join us.
Hey, I see a fresh face there. How you doing, Ozzy?
I made it!
You're not late at all, don't worry.
No, actually, hey, for Puerto Rican time, this is amazingly awesome. So, like, I'm not even joking. So, yeah, I'm only like 4 minutes in. And it was only because my computer wasn't recognizing my mic or my camera, so.
That's all right. So we're going to hop into Jeni, because Jeni has a graduation, I believe she's going to. So Jeni Gregory, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So for our listeners and audience here, you want to go ahead and tell us about
sure. Actually, I got started in comics as an inker. I had never really read comics growing up. I really didn't know what they were until I met my husband. And he started working in comics, and I'm like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. So you can combine art and writing, and it was just perfect. So I decided I wanted to start telling my own stories, and I did DreamWalker. I self-published, then I was at Caliber, then I was at Avatar, and then back to self-publishing. And then I started doing one of the first online web comics called Abby's Menagerie, which is about a girl and extinct animals, which I love drawing animals. So yeah, and then I do a lot of freelance, and I've gotten into sketch cards lately, and I've done a lot of stuff with that, like Manos, Mystery Science Theater, Nosferatu series, and that's what I'm doing now. And then I work at Kablam and Indie Planet. So
yeah, and for those in the comic industry are very familiar with Kablam, a lot of people use you guys to get books made.
Yay. It's a lot of fun. We get to meet a lot of creators, and we get to see a lot of cool comics. So I wish digital printing had been around when I was self-publishing, because back then we had Offset, and I had a garage full. I've done 17 issues of DreamWalker, and we had a garage full of comics because you had to buy, minimum of 3,000. And with digital printing, you can print one, you can print thousands, whatever you want to do. So
I bet it was like the Scrooge McDuck's, room full of gold coins, except it was just inventory.
It does. Yeah. Well, I mean, literally our garage, we had to throw away so many comics because we couldn't get any cars in there. So yeah, between my husband and I with his comics, we had so many in our garage, so we threw them away, and that was hard to do. So
yeah, I became aware of Kablam through my friend Roland Mann, who he sings the praise of Kablam like every convention. Like he even has a T-shirt with Kablam on it. So
he does. Yep. Roland's awesome. He and my husband grew up together in Mississippi. They've known each other for ages. Great writer, great teacher. So yeah, he's a good guy.
I have to say something. Your setup for Comic-Cons is fantastic. I love that.
Thank you. I like that. I did covers for Casper, Underdog. I forgot about that. You forget what you do.
Tell me about it.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I like doing that. So.
Yeah, and that's where I actually became first aware of you, was through the Casper comics.
Yeah. I love doing that. That was my first time really working with something licensed. So it was an interesting process, because if you don't get Casper's head quite right, they send it back to you to redo until you finally get it right. So licensing, working for licensed companies is really different as an artist. So, but it's fun. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, and Casper's a fun character to work with. I mean, there's so much that you can do with that character. So definitely.
Someday I'd like to write some of them and illustrate. I think that'd be really fun to do. I just got to get time. So it's like all of us, trying to find time for the things you want to do.
Yeah.
So, but yep, it's all good. So, and yeah, right now, I did a cover for Michael Cohen, who was with me at Caliber in Caliber's Tapestry line. He did Strange Attractors, which is a fantastic series, and he's relaunching that, and he's starting a new series called Tangled River, and I got to do a guest cover for that. And the Indiegogo just went live, so that was
okay. I'll have to. So there's the link to the Tangled River.
Woohoo! Yeah, he just went. I think it went live like this morning, because I'd asked him last night. He's like, soon. And then I got a message that said, okay, it's live. So it's cool. And it's in Diamond Previews. So have your retailer order it for you.
Yeah. I am really digging the Ultraman stuff that you're doing right now.
I love doing that. Those are some sketch cards. And I grew up with that kind of thing. And that's what's kind of fun is to be able to work on some of these properties. Ultraman is really cool, and some of the cool monsters. I've had a lot of fun with that. So RR Parks is the company that did that Kickstarter, which did Gonzo. And I did 2 sets of Ultraman stuff. A lot of fun. So,
if I remember correctly, Ozzy, aren't you a kaiju fan?
Well, yeah. My introduction to anything in life was growing up in Puerto Rico. We got Messenger Z, which is Transor Z apparently in the States, which is like the grandpa giant robo before Power Rangers, before any of that. And they had it uncensored. Like they showed everything. So I was like, oh my God. So then the whole formula of like giant robots versus giant monsters. And after that came Voltron, and I was big into Ultraman. And I remember a weird one. Is it Goldar? I know Power Rangers uses the name now, but there was like a family of giant gold robot people or something that were fighting monsters. I think it was a blonde dude with like antenna, but he was made out of metal. That show was pretty big when I was a kid too, but I totally blocked it out of my mind. But it was the same formula as Kamen Rider and Ultraman and eventually Power Rangers. So yeah,
yeah, that's cool.
I was really into that too. It translates well
It's
into the
fun.
kind of stuff I've always drawn anyway. So yeah.
I liked it. It was really fun. I can't remember what his name is, but there was one of the monsters that ate pearls. And
Yeah, it was a giant oyster. It was like a
And that
giant
stuck
oyster
out
with
to me.
arms. Yeah.
So I had to draw that one. I drew that one, and then
No,
the
yeah. As soon
character
as,
that had
as
her
soon as you
pearls on.
started saying like, "Oh, I love your Ultraman stuff," I'm like, "Really?" Oh.
It's fun. I got to do some of those, and when you're researching it, you just have to watch the YouTube movies.
Yeah.
So I got to watch a lot of those old things, and it was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, no. Watching the Guillermo del Toro footage over in Japan because he's like a major Ultraman, lose his shit over them bringing out the original kaijus to meet him. He was like a
That's
gleeful
cool.
little kid in a candy
Yeah.
store, and I loved it. He was so genuinely geeking out.
I
And
love
yeah,
that
I
man
li-
so much.
I live.
Oh,
Oh,
gosh.
man, he's my spirit animal. I wanna just visit
Oh,
Dread House. What's his?
yes.
The house that he lives
yes.
in. Yeah.
Oh, my
that would be
God.
Cool.
Yeah, I love how it happened too. Like his wife just said, "You need to move your shit out of here. We got kids now." And then he's
Yeah.
like, "Okay." And then he founded his own studio and put everything into it. Looks like a museum. It's amazing. I'm like, I could
know.
watch
Yeah.
that video on loop all day long.
I do.
I know, seriously, it's so
Okay, here we go.
inspiring too, because all he does is telling you, "You can do it too." And it's like, okay, if you say so, Guillermo.
Guillermo del Toro believes in me. I'm gonna
Yeah.
do
That's
it.
right.
Exactly. But it's awesome. It's awesome. It's like, oh my God, there's more people like me in the world. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I know, like I said, Jeni, you do have to run here soon, but Ryan has a couple questions, which I'll ask everyone, but I want to make sure that Jeni gets in on this.
Okay.
Favorite movies or TV series growing up?
Oh, well, Ultraman was one. I loved the like Laurel and Hardy movies. My mom was older when she had me, so she introduced me to a lot of old classic films, and I'm doing that to my daughter. She's into like the Fred Astaire movies, the Gene Kelly movies. I loved musicals, so those are always fun for me to watch. I love that. It's a lot of fun.
And then, and we'll get back to the rest of you guys here, but Ryan's just pumping out questions. Favorite comics growing up?
Oh my gosh. Well, I love Strange Attractors. I love Hellboy. Those are absolutely great. I love Eric Powell's The Goon. Anything Eric does is absolutely fantastic. And I love everything that my husband does. He's doing the John Eamon public domain stuff, Funny Man, Biff Stone. So like I said, I'd never grown up reading comics, so it's kind of fun to see what he's doing because it introduces me to a world of comics and people I'd never heard of. And so, yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah. And then, so for the rest of you, favorite movies and TV series growing up. We'll start with you, Ozzy.
Movies or TV series? Well, I already started with Messenger, but then after that pretty much just created the underlying pattern of all my stuff. Like my overall obsession is Transformers, collecting them, everything. Like the 87 animated movies coming out in 4K now, and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna get that. But like before that, like it was Messenger, Mighty Orbots, and then of course I was a child of the 80s, so it was always He-Man, G.I. Joe, Transformers, obviously. I even watched the girls' block. I knew Gem and Rainbow Bride, My Little Pony. I watched everything. I was like the main target audience of corporate commercializing in the 80s cartoon era. I was like eating it all up like ambrosia. Like everything, even the more obscure shit, like from the early 80s, because I was a Disney kid, but I wasn't a Disney kid. I was like Animal Olympics, Last Unicorn, Star Blazers, The Legend of Orin. Obviously, yeah, I'm a star in terms of movies. Well, Evil Dead, Transformers the movie, whatchamacallit, what was it? Oh, Flash Gordon. I'm sorry, Flash Gordon. It's just one of those movies that even as an adult you realize how many fetishes you got from that movie alone. I'm like, yeah, it was in an era that's never going to happen again. That movie is the Star Wars we will never get again. So I just love it for every excessive holy shit thing they do. Plus Queen. And growing up I was it's a hard question because I was the target demo for all these people trying to sell toys and cereals.
Yeah. What about you, Brian?
TV series. Batman the Animated Series. I was a '90s kid, so you know, I was in elementary school in the early mid '90s, and so all those cartoons, everything from Batman the Animated Series, a lot of Don Bluth stuff as well. Like I love Secret of Nim. That's probably one of my borderline my favorite animated feature, just because stylistically it's just beautiful. And you know,
were you attracted to Don Bluth? Because I mean, he came from Disney. I mean, he left Disney. What was it? Do you just like that style?
I think with Don Bluth, honestly, his he took a lot of the stylistic storytelling that Disney had, but he always approached it with a darker tone.
He had balls,
which always appealed.
I mean, ever since you didn't even have to see his movies; just play Dragon Slayer or Space Age. You see people being decapitated, split in half, all in the quality of Disney, and you're like, "This is beautiful. I love it. Why can't Disney do this?" And that's what Don Bluth did. He's like, "I'll do it myself," and then he went on and did Titan AE and all these other. I mean, he's kind of hit or miss. He's kind of hit or miss because for every Secret of Nim, there's a troll in Central Park, and I'm like, why, Don? Why? But I can't deny his influence. He's amazing.
Yeah, I think that with Don Bluth, like he really pushed the boundaries of what animators could do. It wasn't just the Disney formula, just for kids kind of thing. It wasn't even the dual layer storytelling that it got. It was literally just like, this is an art form that you can really run with. And I think we saw a lot of that, in the 70s with things like A Song of Ice and Fire and heavy metal and things like that. But I think Don Bluth kind of toned some of those adult themes down and presented it. It's just dark animation for kids that I think has really been lost over the last couple decades.
Or turned them up and made them all nice.
Right, exactly.
Because I mean, he got away with a lot of shit he wouldn't have been able to do with humans with Secret of Nim.
It's also kind of hard to compete with Tim Burton too.
Oh yeah.
He's kind of annoying me over his lack of originality. He seems to be the reboot king. Like everything needs to be reimagined by Tim Burton now. It's like, no, just give me more Frankenweenie or something.
Right. Like do something original. Do something like Beetlejuice again. You know what I mean? Like, not Beetlejuice, but like come up.
Yeah, exactly. Like, like hooray! It's just I don't know. And now he's going to the Addams Family. Like he hasn't learned, or he's learned, and he's basically cashing in every step of the way. But
I think
like I miss his original stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the Tim Burton fans that watch the show may hate me for this, but he's one note.
Agreed. Like
I would say that especially now.
He's the guy like, oh, I love Alice in Wonderland, but what if it was goth?
But it might be one note, but it's a hell of a note.
Oh, I get it.
You know what I mean? Like
it's very artistic.
He knows what his niche is. And he plays to it, and I, as much as it's not my thing necessarily, like I like a lot of his stuff, but I couldn't sit around and just do a Tim Burton day. Oh, I'd shoot myself in the face. I'm fine with watching one of his movies now and then, and enjoying it, but I couldn't do a whole day of that.
Brian, me and you have to have a conversation later.
Well, but there's a difference. There's a difference because if you're gonna watch Edward Scissorhands versus Sweeney Todd, there's a big there's a huge
but there's a lot of his stuff that isn't like the typical gothy weirdness. Like look at Big Fish.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Big Fish.
Yeah.
That is my favorite movie.
Seems to be the only example though.
I really enjoyed Ed Wood as well.
Ed Wood still had his stamp all over it. I mean, you could tell it was Tim Burton. So like, it was a departure in the sense that it's not as wacky, but he just basically focused all that wackiness into Johnny Depp, and that's where, he's the animatronic in that movie. So it's like,
my all-time favorite Tim Burton thing though is the short stop animation film that he did called Vincent.
Yeah.
That is my absolute favorite Tim Burton film. It is. I watch it all the time.
I used to love that he was such a Harryhausen freak and everything was claymation. I mean, Pee-wee's, Pee-wee's movie was amazing just because of the Big Marge scene.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my, that scene, claymation, scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. I was like, nope, I'm not gonna watch this scene. I know what's coming, because it was effective. It came out, and the first time you see that, it comes out of nowhere, and it's delivered in such a unique way that it still freaks you out, even though he turns into a rat fink, caricature. But yeah, no, I used to love when he did all that stuff. Hell, I even forgive his CG when it's well done. Look at Mars Attacks. Like, oh my god.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jeni,
I really like the look of his anim. No, I was just going to say I really love the look of his animation. I love the palette that he uses. I love the design of his characters. Corpse Bride, I really love the art that he does in Corpse Bride. Yeah. So it's interesting when you look at the films as opposed to like the animation. There's little things that this is definitely a Tim Burton, but yeah, for me, I love his animated films. They're awesome, and our kids like it too.
I would imagine that their production design-wise, they must be very challenging too, because you see his Edward Scissorhands. Well, you see all of his sketches; they're like napkin doodles, and then all of these production designers and makeup artists have to decipher a 3D conventional way to, decipher and execute these doodles. And,
yeah, I mean that's a good point. And that was a point that I wanted to make. Everybody talks about how great Tim Burton movies are, but you guys have to remember that Tim Burton is one of hundreds of people who work on that movie. Yeah. I often wonder how much of it is him and how much of it is the people, doing set design, costume design, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Making him look really good.
Yeah. And I think, but at the same time, like, absolutely, Grant, you're right. But I would say that also comes back to him as a visionary, as the guy in charge of all these people. Right. He's not only casting the vision, but he's letting them run with it. That's why he's so successful.
I was going to bring that up because you say he lets them run with it, but I don't know how much of that OCD is in place where he gives you a napkin doodle. It's up to you to decipher it, and then he just sits there and goes, no, a little less, a little more. You know what? You had it right the first time, but I needed 100 other versions just to make sure. I don't know how much of that process is, like, hey, give me your interpretation of it, or nope, not there yet. Nope, not there yet. I don't know what it's supposed to look like, but I know it's not supposed to look like that. And you're like, because I think everybody in this room has been there.
I got a question since we're on a Tim Burton thing here. If you were to look at the comic industry, who do you think is the Tim Burton of the comic industry?
Ooh,
Sam Keith.
I would say Mike Mignola.
Mike Mignola's a good answer.
Okay. The stylistic approach to it. Like, you see a Tim Burton film, you know it's Tim Burton. You see a Mike Mignola book, you know it's Mike Mignola.
Who was the guy who did Johnny the Homicidal Maniac?
Oh, yeah.
He could maybe be.
You know what? Yeah.
I can't remember his name, though.
Yeah, the Invader Zim guy. Yeah. Oh, God. Oh.
So, Ozzy, Ryan wants to know, did you have 6 coffees before the show? No, see, Ryan Ozzy's always like this.
Just the one. Yeah. I am always just a big ball of hyper. And then just pure coma chill. There's no in between.
So
just coffee laced with cocaine. Let's do it.
Why not?
Like everybody else.
Damn it, I'm gonna get through life one way or another.
I'm gonna duck out now. Okay. I'm gonna.
Okay. Sorry,
okay,
Jeni.
Well, Jeni, where can everybody find you on social media?
I'm on Facebook. Nothing creative. It's just Jeni Gregory. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, DeviantArt, Instagram. So yeah, it's I post my art stuff up there all the time. So it's a great medium. I think it introduces you to more people and more styles. So definitely. But look me up.
Wonderful to meet you, Jeni.
But thank you for having me. It was great to meet everyone. So thank you for having me.
Congratulations on your graduation.
Thank you. Yeah, it's going to be fun. So, all right. Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Jeni.
Nice to meet you, Jeni.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh, man. I love having different creators on here.
I love her art.
It's so good. I was looking at it earlier, too.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, speaking of creating, let's hop into let's see here, Chuck. I mean, you have your hands in a little bit of everything. So you've been on before, but let's kind of reintroduce everyone to what you do.
I'm mostly an editor in comics, but I also edit novels now. I'm a writer. I've written several of my own things, including Belial, Welcome to the Void, and I'm the co-creator and co-writer for the audio drama and now novel Essence House. Yeah.
Ooh.
That's Chronicles of the Essence Guard. That's the name of the series. Essence House was the first 2 seasons, and now book 2 / seasons 3 and 4 is Children of the Essence, which is out right now, actually.
Okay.
Ah.
That's pretty cool.
Neat.
Yeah.
So I'm all over the place. That's my boy Belial.
I've seen that. Yeah. Okay.
That's one of the coolest covers too.
Yeah.
That's not even a cover. That is actually our air freshener.
Yeah.
Our air freshener. Yeah.
That's so
What
awesome.
does that smell like?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what does it smell like?
We were looking for Sex and Candy. I don't know what he ended up finding. Because Sex and Candy, like, to me, that's just the fun of hell.
I would have made that like a smoky barbecue smell.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that was an obvious one, but I felt like Sex and Candy because it kind of goes with our sort of theme of hell is just this funny, debaucherous, dirty place, and everything good that you're not allowed to have ends up in hell. So.
I feel like whatever scent you end up with, you should just rename it Sulfur and Sadness.
Yeah, there you go. Sulfur, Dead Souls, and Potpourri. Yeah.
Now I definitely want to go out and buy that.
Well, and it was funny because when you were talking about different shows and stuff, I had a lot of the same shows that these guys had, but I was also massively inspired by sitcoms in the 80s and 90s. And that gave me a lot of my timing and feel for kind of interpersonal relationships and dialogue and all that kind of stuff. So sitcoms. There's a lot of that in what I do, and Belial is kind of a hell sitcom.
Interesting. Okay. The art almost has like a heavy metal feel to it too.
Yep. That's our Thomas Tenney cover. That's the Meatloaf Bat Out of Hell cover.
Yeah.
I'm also getting a lot of Bubba vibes too. Bubba the Redneck Werewolf.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
and because I love this art. I'm sorry. The art of Belial just looks amazing. So
thank you, man. That's Dan Gorman and our boy Sean Barbour, the other creator of Belial, and that's our Hold My Beer cover. Yeah.
Nice.
So we have Ozzy, who is our resident artist here on the panel today. So Chuck, when you're looking for artists for your work and stuff, what is it that you're specifically looking at the art to say that's the artist that I need?
So, like, I also help a lot of my clients find art. So I had an artist or a client recently who said, it was her first book and she was looking for artists, and so she had this big list. Let's go through this list and see who we like. And there was so many, and there was this one. We had very different lists of our favorites. And she said, "This guy is the top of mine." I said, "That's funny. He's on the bottom of mine." She said, "Well, that's exactly what I'm looking for in art." And I was like, "I bet, but he's got no sequentials. So you have no idea what he's going to do for the inside of your book."
Yeah.
She was like, "Oh, you're right." And I'm like, just because you can draw a beautiful cover, sequentials are a totally different thing. I need to see your panels. Yep. And if you just send me a page of 6 blocks, you're not getting the job, buddy, because that's the easy part. That's regular old paneling. Literally anybody with a ruler can do that.
Yeah.
So I need to see that you can do some dynamic paneling. Everything doesn't have to be dynamic because then it's not dynamic. But I need to know that you want to play, and that you can, play outside of the regular blocks and all that kind of stuff. And the most important thing is that the art suits the story, the feel that we're trying to give it. So as much as you might want to have, like a J. Scott Campbell on every single one of your books, he's not appropriate for everything you do. Not even just because, the sexiness isn't required in, like, say, Winnie the Pooh, but also because that feel doesn't need to be everywhere. So who has the feel, who is bringing this the sensations that will make this feel right, and that will make this feel like the story we're trying to tell. So that's usually what I'm looking for.
And I love how you touched on the biggest pet peeve I have when it comes to comic books nowadays is great comic art on the cover, but it's not consistent with what's in the pages.
Yeah, that's what turns me off too. Like, I look at the covers, like, that's great, and I start getting in the inside.
Oh, that's always been a thing. Like, it's not recent. Like, even as a kid, I would always get frustrated after that.
I feel bamboozled when that happens.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
This sucks. Why? Like, what the heck? It's a completely different artist.
No, yeah, exactly.
Well, you look at the cover catches your eye, but what's going to keep you, keep you in the book is going to be what you get out of the rest of the pages. That's why I might look at the cover, but I'm always opening it up to see what's next.
I got bamboozled even extra because it was multimedia with me. Because I don't know if you guys remember, when you watched your 80s cartoon blocks, you would get the G.I. Joe and Transformer comic books commercials made with the animation of the show, but not the animation, the regular animation of the show, the movie animation of the show. And then they always end up like, what happens next? Find out in Marvel Comics. And you're like, damn, I got to get that damn comic. And you go and you're like, this is not what I was sold. Yeah. And it actually, I think Brian has noticed, because I think he's commented on it as well, but that peeve influenced me to the point where even now, like the turtle cover that I showed you, that did its rounds and all that, like, I always make it a point to make it look like what you grew up with. Like, even if it's edgier and stuff, it'll still look like cel-shaded animation. Well, that's the markers, but that's like the magic markers and stuff. But I always want to be like the guy that mediates for the guys that were bamboozled by the animation, and then they went for the comic book and they're like, what is this? Because there's some examples where it translates well, and then there's others where they just didn't care. They're like, I'm good enough, And I feel they did that with a lot of the 80s stuff that was being pushed by animation to a mainstream audience, and then catering to a very niche audience in the comic books because they alienated all the animation fans, I
agree, though. What I would say is, first off, for in indies, I'm seeing more and more that we're getting the standard cover is the interior artist, and then the variants are all these other people. So I'm seeing more and more that indies at least are kind of respecting that and understanding, like, we're fans and we've been bamboozled by this, and so we don't want to do that. So I'm seeing more and more of that, and I know for all of my books, the standard cover is always the interior artist.
Yeah. It's a double-edged sword though, because like it feels like now alternate covers are the new holographic cover. Like, everybody's doing it now. Every book now seems to have like 10 different covers.
Yeah. Do you know why that is?
Money.
Because people fucking buy them. I hate variant covers. No.
I understand the necessity for it, because these alternate covers are not made by the studio. They're made by store owners who hire artists to create store exclusives, and then they become part of the official run. And that's great not only for indie artists who getting a gig doing an extra cover, but also for the comic book store owners that are having a great way to promote their store in an era where stores are dying.
Yeah. Well, it's not just the stores though; it's the conventions now that are getting their exclusives. But also, I've been seeing the art reps are getting, like, especially Scorpion Comics, who rep a whole bunch of artists. They have exclusives, and I've seen other art reps starting to get exclusive for their companies as well. So
I mean, I was just gonna say the old expression, "You vote with your dollar."
Yeah.
If you don't like the alternate covers, then stop buying. I mean, as long as people are buying them, it's hard enough to make a buck in this industry as it is.
Yeah.
And if I can pay somebody $100 to do a variant cover, knowing that I'm going to make oh God, Brian's pulling out my comic book now, isn't he? We're talking about gimmick covers, and he pulls out my gimmick cover.
Hey, you know what? It's a world of horrors. Like, don't be ashamed. Like, seriously, we're all whoring something, and if that gets you more eyes looking at your product, make the billboard as shiny as you want.
But for your G.I. Joe point, I would say yes, maybe on an art level you were bamboozled. However, you were also reverse bamboozled because you got to read Larry Hama writing, and his stories were ridiculous.
I get it. No, I know. Like I still got like the issues where like Serpentor invented pizza in Roman age. One of his lives invented pizza, and Cobra Commander's just a regular dude. That pissed me off though, because I'm from the animation where Cobra Commander's just some freaking mutant. But like it's a double-edged sword, because I will give you that G.I. Joe had some really awesome art. That silent issue where no word doubles of the Snake Eyes. But Transformers, not even Furman. Furman probably hurt it more by adding so much theological elements and making Unicron a god and adding all. I know I'm going to get a lot of crap for that, but nah, not a fan of the Furman era. I feel like the animation simplified it to the point where it's complex enough for world building, but simple enough for kids to get it.
Ozzy, I think you physically pained Chuck when you said that. His whole demeanor changed. He was like,
I actually stepped off the Transformer train a long time ago, so I'm really just listening at this point. I know people on either side of it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't actually give a but it's okay. I'm just gonna listen and see what, because most of the other people I've spoken to are on the other side.
Exactly. It illustrates the bamboozle element that I'm talking about, because you come when you're introduced to a property through a certain medium, whether it's radio once upon a time, television when you were a kid, movies, or whatever. Comic books is usually the bridge that brings that media, or usually originated that media, because most of the crap that we see on other media came from comic books. So if you're going into it with a certain expectation, and then you're like, this is not, and the problem is also, like, a lot of people are taking way too many liberties. I feel bad for this generation that's getting introduced to Arrow through the Arrow show, and then they go to the comics and realize that all of his best stories are Batman stories. All of his favorite villains are Batman villains, and it's like, what happened here? And I feel like it kind of bastardizes the source material, in the sense that you're not being shown the what the character should be. It's kind of the biggest issue I have with the new iteration of Spider-Man, because it omitted Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben is Peter Parker's pathos. Like, he is his heroic journey, and to have Stark be that feels kind of like a betrayal to the source material. And I feel bad for this newer generation that doesn't even know who Uncle Ben is, because they think Iron Man fit that bill.
I totally disagree with that. I feel like we have heard the Uncle Ben, right? We've heard the Uncle Ben story so many times that we didn't need to hear it again. We've already heard like three.
We have, but these things are generational.
Garfield's movies just came out like less than 5 years ago, and they had stupid Uncle Ben in them. I'm tired of fucking Uncle Ben. The motherfucker has been dead for like 60 years. Let him be dead.
But it's his reason.
He has other things in his life.
So
no, it's not his reason. His reason is that he's an excellent guy, and he can be.
No! I'm not vouching for his character. I'm vouching for his influence on the creation of Spider-Man.
I just don't think we need to hear it every time.
Which one?
This is a big pet peeve of mine with the younger generation. The idea that pop culture began like 3 years ago. It's not going to kill you to watch a movie that came out 10 years ago. I mean.
Exactly. Not everything needs to be rebooted. Sometimes the original stands on its own.
Right. Well, I mean, we all know why they're rebooting these movies, because they make money off of them. Yeah. Again, vote with your dollar.
Well, and also,
stop going to see them.
So what's funny, Chuck, is when you started talking about Garfield, you meant Andrew Garfield. In my head, I was like, wait, Uncle Ben was in the Cats movie? What's happening here? Did I miss something?
I was like, wait a minute. Uncle Ben was in Garfield?
I was like, wait a minute, hold on.
Have we all forgot that we did
Garfield
movies?
was a movie, but
So,
where was
okay.
Uncle Ben? Did we watch the same movie?
So,
Did we forget that we
so-
did movies?
I'm so happy somebody else said it.
I
So,
was thinking
Ozzy-
like Garfield.
oh, sorry.
I was lost for like 2 seconds. I was like,
To
So,
be
Ozzy,
fair, I
if-
forgot his first name for just a minute. And I was like, just go, go.
No. It was great because like it was the perfect nerd rant because it follows your stream of thought and then like fuck everybody else if they don't get it. But this is what I mean. It was like yes.
So if I understand correctly, in the new Spider-Man movies, Uncle Ben still existed. They just didn't show that part.
They
of the
just
story. Which I'm fine. I mean, I'm fine with.
the Uncle Ben thing.
Yeah, I'm fine. I agree with Chuck. Sorry, Ozzy.
I mean, I
We don't
get
need to see that again.
but see, pathos. I get that. That's kind of why he becomes the whole, responsibility. Yeah, I get it. But it's important to understand that along the journey of a superhero, there's a lot of other people that are important to you. Along the journey of us becoming whoever we are, and that's why Marvel and that's why people enjoy Marvel so much is that there's sort of a like this could be me. Like he has a humble beginning and then whoa, he becomes a superhero. But like there's still problems involved in that, and so
like how many dead Tom and Martha Waynes do we have to see? We know.
No, but that's the problem. You said it yourself, Nicole. As they go along, but Spidey hasn't been allowed to go along because every time he starts gaining momentum, he gets freaking rebooted. But every time you want to retell the story, you still got to tell the story. Like, you can't say Superman all of a sudden came from the core of the earth and he's some kind of super being created from the earth to avenge us and he's the new Captain Planet. No! He's still from Krypton. He's still a baby that was shot into a rocket into space. The only reason why they feel they can skip over Ben is the only reason that made Spider-Man special. Relatability. He is the average kid who got fucked over because his uncle was taken from him because of his inability to do something. And that's what inspires him to never let it happen again to anybody else. Mm-hmm. The same with Batman. You can't say, oh, Batman's just a guy who got tired in a traffic jam and beat the shit out of a guy who had road rage. No, he's still a rich kid whose parents got killed in an alley, and it molded who he is as a person for the rest of his life. It's not something that he'll outgrow. It's always going to be a part of him because that's what made him what he is.
Well, but that speaks to the whole thing. It's that our journey is what cultivates us before. And do we have to talk about it? Does it have to be the corner of what we talk about? Does it have to be the forefront of the story? Or can it be something that's done in a flashback or done in some other simulation, some other conversation,
well,
some other
storytelling? That depends on how much emotional weight you want that element to have.
Because I'm that kid that lost their parent, that has lived with that their entire life. And when I listen to somebody say, just get over it, I'm like, fuck you, get over it. Like, what are you talking about? Mm-hmm. This is my dad who died when I was 6. I'm sorry. I don't understand what get over it means. Like, who is the person that I am now versus the person I could have been if he was still here?
Yeah.
Like, this is a real life thing.
Peter Parker is the kind of character that gets molded by his mistakes. Gwen Stacy, Uncle Ben, Mary Jane. He made a deal with the devil to keep his dying on for a day. Come on. Like, I know, as horrible as that story was.
But as you get older, you don't have to start the story all the way through. Like, let him become a 20-something. Let him become.
No, I'm not saying we have to have we don't need to have the Uncle Ben scene rehashed every day. But like the other day, last week, we had this scene. Like every once in a while, people like to make certain comic book pages viral and something. And they had the scene where Pete is talking to Franklin Richards. And they're sharing the story of how Johnny died, and he starts talking about Uncle Ben, so they get through that loss. Mm-hmm. That's a great way to honor the legacy of what that character means without revisiting the entire arc. You know?
Go ahead, Chuck.
Wait, I was allowed to say fuck the entire time, and you guys were gonna just let me censor myself.
Which was the first thing I made sure in the
Serious
chat.
bullshit going on here.
Okay, in my defense, this time I was the first one that said it. Somebody else
I was waiting for somebody else to say it because the first thing I said in the chat is, I mean, I'm not gonna get canceled just because I opened my mouth, right? Because like, holy shit.
Because I was censoring myself like an asshole, and then all of a sudden the fight came out, and I'm like, oh, nobody told me I could play with those tools.
We've already established we will never be picked up for public television because of because
You
of
and me both, sister. You and me both.
how many times I will say the F word.
Like Terry McIver says, it smells like debauchery. There's always a little bit on the show.
Yeah.
We can unleash the full extent of our extended vocabulary.
So
on my show, we call it the Chuck Bomb now. That's not even the F-bomb. That's my word.
Willow, I need you to look up Ozzy's 30th anniversary Ninja Turtles cover for Puerto Rico Comic Con. He did with what was it, Tony Cordos, and who else worked on that?
Tony and me. I penciled it, he inked it, and then I colored it.
Yeah, so you look for that, and we'll hop over to Grant, who is the creator of Beowulf. You want to go ahead and talk about your journey?
Yeah, so Beowulf is my first regular comic book. I've done a few anthologies before, but Beowulf is my first regular comic book. Issue 1 came out 2 or 3 months ago, and it was a huge success on Kickstarter. I think it was 250% backed. So issue 2 is going to be up on Monday. I know a few of the guys in the chat said that they already got Beowulf. Yeah, I know Brian has it right there.
I gotta say, I like this.
Yeah, so if you sign up for the sketch tier, that's what you're going to get. Did you want me to do a plot synopsis? Or I guess my elevator pitch.
Go ahead, do your elevator pitch.
Yeah, pitch it.
Okay, so Beowulf is the story of Hazel. She's a suburban teenager who discovers one day that her cat can talk when he tells her that he just had a vision of a dragon waking after 1,000 years. So they go to recruit the reincarnation of Beowulf, the famous dragon slayer. But unfortunately, something's kind of gotten lost over the millennium. He's no longer this brave warrior. He's more of a 30-something slacker.
Does he work at a coffee shop?
He's actually unemployed. One of the first scenes of the comic book is him losing his job because he got confused as to what day of the week it was. So this is the guy who all of our fates are in the hands of.
These are the kids I teach.
I'm sorry.
I said these are the kids I teach.
Oh, okay, yeah. Probably.
Yeah. I do, we were joking about variant covers and stuff, but I really do love the shininess of this cover. It just brings the cover out more. And
I think it also worked with what I was going for with that cover because Mooney and Hazel are jumping through a portal on the cover of that comic book, so the hologram kind of looks like they're jumping through a portal.
Yeah, it doesn't look like an overlay. It looks like it's part of his power because you could see the arc around it and the power lines coming through it. So yeah, no, it looks pretty
exactly.
Cool. It looks like it's part of the cover, not just an enhancement of it. So,
thanks.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then like most indie creators, and I even see a lot of the mainstream people starting to use it. Kickstarter. You want to go ahead and talk about how Kickstarter not only helped you, but helped other independent creators?
Yeah, I mean, Kickstarter has been a real help. I mean, like we were talking about earlier, there was a time when, if you wanted to do an independent comic book, you had to print 3,000 copies, and they usually sat around your garage. Thanks to Kickstarter and digital printing, Kickstarter or Beowulf had a run of about 400 copies. which, I was able to figure out how many copies we needed before printing them, thanks to Kickstarter. It's not like you just, print 3,000 and maybe I'll be able to sell them. Kickstarter has been, I think, a huge bonus or a huge help for people who are trying to do independent comic books.
Yeah, it's kind of like in the film industry, they have the made to order. There's certain films that are classics that are not on Blu-ray. That I believe Warner Brothers has teamed up with Amazon, and they have classics up. And as soon as you order that classic, then it's on an MOD, which is like a digital disc creation of that movie with the special features and stuff. And that way they're saving money because they don't have tons, just sitting there.
Right.
But Kickstarter has done that with comics. So they go, oh, well, so many people have backed it. This is how many comics need to be printed.
Exactly. Yeah, so we ended up selling about 300 copies of Beowulf. I printed a little bit more than that because, I want to go to conventions and comic book shops and stuff. So it's been doing really well for us so far.
And how's your reach? Do you remember where the furthest comic was sent?
So I sent one to Hawaii. There are a few people from Europe backed the digital ones. I'm not doing physical copies to Europe just because international shipping is crazy right now. But we sent a few to Italy, a few to England. I think I sent one to Australia.
That's really cool. Especially, an independent person that's just getting their name out there, that these people from these countries believe in what you're doing.
There was one guy from Canada who was like, I really want your comic book, but I'm not a big fan of digital comic books. And you said that you're not, shipping to Canada. Is there any way I can get a physical copy? And I told him, you can PayPal me like $30 for shipping. And he actually did it. So.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
Nice.
I didn't think anybody would pay $30. But
yeah. Some people do it. Some people, for them, that's their life. Like, if they want something from America, get ready to save not only for the product, but for the shipping as well. So.
Yeah. Sadly, that's part of one of the reasons why I don't really back too many stuff, because everybody's from the U.S. and I'm in Canada, and $16 can become $25 pretty damn quick.
Yeah. I mean, the crazy thing is this guy was from Toronto, which is only it's only like a half-hour flight from. I live in Pittsburgh, so I know for a fact that Toronto is only like a 45-minute flight from here. But it's kind of crazy to me to think that's over $20, almost $25 to ship to Toronto, but that's the way it is right now.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I want to congratulate you on your first successful Kickstarter with Beowulf #1.
Thanks, Brian.
#2 starts on Monday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. So we'll have to get that link up when it's available.
So I have like 2 days to read this thing? Crap.
I you know what, you bring up the whole Kickstarter movement has me having one question. Maybe you guys have an opinion on it. In this day and age of print to order, is the collectability of first print runs dead? Like, what is a first print run when in a world where everything is print to order?
Well, I think you still have the first printing. I mean, like, especially if you include like a barcode on there. Because the second printing, the barcode would actually change. I know we do barcodes with all our comics because they're sold in the stores and stuff, and it's just easier for the shops to carry. So, I mean, you look at the barcode, the actual code itself does change once you do the second printing. So there is still something about that, but I mean, I have thought the same thing myself.
Do you make it a point to make your first print run actually say first printing? Like, you take your first backing quantity and use it for your first print run. Do you make it a point to let them know, hey, first print run?
So far, I mean, we have had like, not really, not necessarily, and that's why like it is kind of like one of those things. Like, does it really matter anymore?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because like, I mean, I ran the indie circuit in the '90s. I used to work for Cry for Dawn, Vampirotica, all these other thingies, and when they say first printing, it's because they went to Kinko's and freaking photocopied a black and white print run. Yeah. But you knew that was the number one. That was the coveted bootleg version or ash can, because most of these properties never went past an ash can. Right. But I don't know if that still happens today.
Well, I'm not a creator, but I've seen on Kickstarters, like especially when a creator does like an issue 2 and does a Kickstarter and then wants to include issue 1, but they'll make issue 1 with a different cover. Would that be considered? I mean, to me, that would be considered a second.
That's a good compromise, because I mean, they're never going to say, "Oh, issue 1 is sold out." No, not so long as you can still cash in on it and you can just print to order. So where does the value come on an issue that's constantly being produced without any kind of exception? So I think an alternate cover is a good way.
Yeah, I know. Like for us, like what we do is like like the original, like our series Memoirs of an Angel, the very first printing of the first 3 issues were in black and white, and we will never reprint those. So like on our online shop, it does say like limited time exclusive offer, because these will never be printed again. And then like with every Kickstarter we do, there you go. Like with every Kickstarter that we do, we include a Kickstarter exclusive one variant cover by another artist, and that will never be printed again either.
Okay.
So that does give some kind of, exclusivity, like, oh, this is a special thing, and it's never going to be redone.
Yeah. No, I do. I only say it because I go through this with my own partner in Razorblade Apple. Like he ever since our conception, he always went with the print to order scheme, and I'm like, but where is our value? Like, how do we differentiate first print run? If you're literally, your first print run was like 100, and then you go on every other 100 issues every other week, and he's like, I don't care, it's selling. I'm like, I get it, but it's like there's a certain side of this industry that I know is going to be not only affected but even die out eventually if this is just the norm now. Where does the investment value, which I'm sure a lot of collectors consider when buying comics, come from in this print to order generation?
I do think that's where Kickstarter really comes in to help, because like with what we do, like you're never going to get the rewards on Kickstarter that you get. You're never going to get those in the store, right? Like we never had. We don't even have some of that stuff on our online store. So it's literally like with a Kickstarter, this is a special package pre-order deal that you're not going to get anywhere else at any other time. Like some of our
the perks become the collectibles pretty much.
Exactly, and I think I think you also do that with the variant cover that we do as well. Like you do get that. It's the same idea. It just looks a little different.
Yeah.
So, Chuck, you want to chime in here, because I know you've done a lot of Kickstarters with your own stuff, with like Travis Gibb and other creators.
Yeah, on any month, I have at least one book on Kickstarter. So, yeah, man, dude, there's a lot going on Kickstarter. As far as the print run, I feel like because it's indies, a lot of people aren't as worried. It's still highly collectible, just because, okay, fine, maybe they've done 4 print runs of 100, but there's still only 400 issues. Like, it's still incredibly rare in the vast scheme of it all. Whereas it's not like it's like, The Walking Dead's doing a 50,000 issue run. You know what I mean? So it's still incredibly rare, even if technically it's the 4th print run of 100. It's still the first of 400. It's not that many.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
I see where you're coming from, but yeah, man, I just don't think that because the print runs are usually so much smaller, it just doesn't matter. And as far as like Kickstarter for us, what we do is I try to do a sizable print run that will hold me off for a long time. I would really rather not have to reprint again if I don't have to.
Yeah, we do the same.
And then I tell people same thing. We usually have several variants, and the variants are get them now. And if there's any left over, you can get them at a con, and then that's it, kiddo. We're not reprinting those. You might see them as cool prints or you might see them somewhere in the comic or in the trade or something, but they will never be a cover again.
Right.
Well, there's another reason for alternate covers right there too.
So speaking of covers, this is the book that Ozzy and Tony Cardos done for Puerto Rican Comic Con.
Oh, so cool.
Oh, I've seen this one.
I love that.
I feel like I've seen this one.
Yeah, see, that's what embodies what I'm talking about. Like, you see that, and yeah, sure, it looks updated, but it still reminds you of the source material. Like, visually, you're still going, if you buy the comic book, you're going like, yeah, okay. You know.
Yeah, didn't you guys break a record by having, this was the comic that had, in the Turtles universe, that had the most characters on the cover ever? I could have sworn that. Yeah,
I didn't even know that. That's pretty cool. Okay.
I was just like, sweet.
This book, what, 2014, right? 2014, I think it came out.
I think so. Yeah.
2014. I remember it was. Okay. I think it was Bleeding Cool and a few others ran the article that this comic had the most Ninja Turtle characters on the cover ever, because you had to open it to get the full thing.
Oh yeah. A lot of people were kind of angry at that because it hindered display. Either you had to buy 2 of them, or like, and there were only 500 of them. Like, people are still like hiring mercenaries online just to find that cover. I'm like, you should have made 1,000 at least. You know.
And I have 2, and they're both signed by you and Tony. So.
Oh, there you go. You can display it. You know, yeah, exactly. You can show the full cover. But yeah, no. Yeah, that cover's paid its dividends. I'm still getting commission work. Like, my plate is full thanks to that cover. And then it got me the other cover, speaking of gimmicks, because I mean, I may poke fun of it, but like almost all my covers are gimmick covers anyway, because the Ghostbuster Ninja Turtle one was glow in the dark.
Okay.
The slime, the slime glows in the dark. And that's all just me. Like, they're like, hey, they want you to do another cover. I'm like, okay, can we do this? Yeah, let's do it. I'm like, okay.
People like me love that stuff, though.
Yeah. That was a Jeffrey Campbell thing. Yeah. Oh man, I've been knee deep in that dilemma.
Oh yeah, I was gonna touch on that, but I was gonna wait till we ranted and raved about everything else. But
yeah. Oh yeah, there you go. My April.
That's cute. I like that.
Really like that.
Thanks.
Got that. There's a real emotionality to that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, I like to be cheeky, but I also like to show personality. You know, that's kind of why I got involved in the whole Campbell issue. I'm like, stop telling artists how to draw or what to draw. Like, honestly.
Thank you.
And
thank you for standing up.
And if he wants to sexualize it or make it cheeky or pin-up-y, it's not that he's promoting something or another. He's making it fun. Like, and it's something I like to incorporate, because I get hired to do a lot of cheesecake, obviously, but I don't do it just to make it look like a Penthouse cover. Like, I like to infuse personality to it, so that when you see it's a certain character being cheeky, it's a certain character that's showing you it's that certain character by her attitude. And I like to just show. That's why I always have the big anime eyes, because I can express a lot more. So I'm kind of like a Disney anime hybrid.
Yeah, with what. Going back to what Grant said, like, if you have a problem with that stuff, just don't buy it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Oh my God, thank you.
Just don't buy it. Like, calm down.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, I knew the shit was gonna hit the fan the moment they did it to Manara. Like, you don't do that to Manara. Manara has done shit for this industry that you could dream of, and you're gonna shit on him over a goddamn Spider-Woman cover? Come on, man. You don't like it? Get it. Awesome. Art is supposed to inspire emotion, whether it's positive or negative, but don't prevent others from enjoying it and making those same choices for themselves. Yeah. You don't fucking censor somebody like Manara. His entire 12 cover run was amazing, and you're gonna fucking cancel the whole thing because of the Spider-Woman cover? Get out of here. And the thing is, the disrespect shown to somebody who's a fucking leader in this industry because they don't know his work. Well, fucking educate yourself. How dare you? But, Thank
you.
That's the thing. Like, anybody who wants to censor anything, it doesn't even have to be art. They have no clue why it's important. Like, gratuitous anything is one thing, but for the sake of art is another. Like,
and the entitlement of people thinking that an artist owes them anything. Like, this is art. It's supposed to stand on its own. Love it or hate it or move the fuck on. But
this is why they say art is subjective, right?
Yeah.
You know what, though? And not that I don't disagree with your point, but on the other side, I would actually say that there's someone else that we get to yell at, which great, because several of us love to yell. And that is, I think that actually people have every right to call Monero out and say they don't like it, and that's okay.
Oh, yeah,
But to stop the production of it,
right?
Those are the real people. Those are the real people.
Yeah.
So I'm allowed to say, you know what? I hate the over-sexualization, blah, blah. I don't feel that way, but I can say it. It doesn't fucking matter if I say it, though. If you stop it because little old me didn't like it, you're the issue. You're the one canceling.
Yeah,
and I'm so tired when people go, Chuck, because you didn't like this, you're for cancel culture. No, I just didn't like it, and I didn't buy it, and I told you I didn't like it because I have a fucking voice, and I have a fucking wallet, and I spoke with both of them. I didn't tell that company, I'll never buy anything you do again because you did this. No, I just won't fucking buy that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And it was up to that company that made that fucking choice.
Yeah, art is supposed to do that, right? Like what Ozzy said, like art is supposed to bring different perspectives to the table and say, well, I didn't like it because of this reason. And then someone comes back like, well, actually, this is why I did like it. And it creates conversation. But if you completely eliminate the thing, then there's no conversation.
Look, I think we can all agree we all love shitting on Liefeld, but I don't think anybody has actually sat here and said, I am going to do everything in my power to prevent Liefeld from ever drawing again professionally. No, you don't do that.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Like, love it or hate it, but don't fucking shit on somebody's paycheck like that. Like, seriously, especially people who have a staple in this industry. And I knew it. I knew it from the moment they fucked with Manara. It was only going to get worse. Yeah. And then for Campbell to suffer the way that he has over stupid shit. The Riri cover? Are you kidding me?
But
like,
honestly, how he has handled it is beautiful.
Oh, I love it. That's why I got involved. I'm like, I need to show my appreciation for the fact that he didn't take it and he was a fucking gentleman.
Yeah. And he just turned it into a business. He turned it into a business opportunity. I loved it. He was like, oh, well, if you don't like it, then go ahead and make your own.
Bravo, my friend. Bravo.
I love how Jay was like promoting other people, like when they were drawing the thing, and he was like posting it on his Twitter and Facebook page and like sharing all the people and stuff that were like redrawing the picture. But I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah. And I love the fact that he made a point to say, it's amazing how when this controversy started, my following spiked up. And the moment I diffused the situation and actually made it a positive space for people to actually share in the discussion, I lost a lot of followers. People are just in it for the fucking drama. People are just in it for the fucking drama. And when you don't give it to them, they leave in the tantrum.
This is why I hate
that's how it
media.
Yeah. Oh my God, I know.
That's why I stay away from Twitter. Like the plague, which
I hate that I need it as an artist as well too, because it's a platform we still need. You know, I mean, it's better than Diamond.
YouTube can be just as bad as a dumpster fire.
Everywhere.
Okay,
everywhere can be.
Just look at my video from 2 weeks ago. Okay, the one freaking popular video that I have on there is me disproving a freaking magnet.
I mean, I agree that all social media is awful, but I do think Twitter is the worst of all of them.
Oh man, it is.
I think just like everything, social media can be an extremely positive thing, and it can also be extremely negative. Just like everything else, it really just depends on who you surround yourself with and what you allow yourself to be a part of.
It's cultivation.
And if you jump headfirst into the drama stuff, that's all you're ever gonna get.
But see, that's the thing.
If you discern yourself from that a little bit, I mean, it's always going to show up, right? It's always going to show up, no matter where you are. But there are certain places where it shows up a lot more than others.
Yeah.
Well, that's why a lot of people like to say there's no such thing as cancel culture, but they omit the reality that it's become its own culture. There's people that literally wake up every morning to see what they're going to be angry at today. And they get off to it. They get off to it. It's like it's a pack mentality. It's a body snatcher shit. They're waiting for somebody to go, and then everybody's just going to fucking pile on.
Ozzy, I just peed myself a little when you did that.
But it's that mentality, and it's become a culture because thousands, millions of people now hold, because they realize the power they have. They like Chuck said, all these corporations bend over backward and spread cheeks over the outrage. We're moving in the speed of outrage. Like today's ally is tomorrow's cancel guy just because he made one bad tweet. And then all of a sudden, every corporation now is under gunpoint to either satiate the situation by getting rid of said problematic element, or simply keeping them, being true to the person and showing a little loyalty, and then losing a lot of viewership in the process. It's a battlefield, and it sucks, but it has become a culture.
And that's why when that stuff happens with the corporations and everything's like, well, come on over here to the indie circles that come over here.
Right.
And you can buy our stuff over here. We'll absolutely take your money. Come on.
Well, the thing is, it's bled into the indie circle, especially with comics.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here.
I was just going to say, the more we talk about it, the more
the more power we're giving the man. Let's move on. Come on.
But it's not just in comics; it's everywhere.
Oh,
Because somebody doesn't understand something. Because I posted just a tiny little thing on my page about teaching and how kids need teachers that love to teach and blah blah blah. It had nothing to do with anything else, and then it became this huge thing about me complaining about my job and just shut up and do my job.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck? I was shutting up and doing my job. Screw you. So it was like in droves, my friends that were teachers were like, oh, we'll show you what the fuck's up. Here's how, they'll tell you. They flat out told her, like, this is where you're wrong. This is where your thinking is incorrect. And it all comes from, if you don't know it, you have no idea about it. But people can't shut up if they don't know it and then educate themselves. They got to run their mouth.
Because it breeds an air of entitlement where you feel justified in going to a total stranger and telling them not to draw what they don't like. And it's like, where do you get off? Like, no, who are you? And why should I even listen to you? Like, people have weaponized opinions, and that's very dangerous.
Yeah.
And I will be the first one to say that I got into comic books because of the art, because of the way that I love the look of the women, the look of the men. If you're going to tell me that that comic book art is sexualizing women because they make their boobs look big, you guys obviously haven't seen any fucking pictures of me on the fucking internet.
Well, that's the thing is comic books are what comic books are is they're a hyper realization of real life. And
it's an escaping medium,
right. And so it's like that with everything, right? And if you don't like this specific thing that this artist does, move to this other artist, because you have a lot of artists now that are just intentionally their voices, their artwork. Cool. You don't like the over sexualization of men or women over here? This person is doing it differently. Go follow them.
Yeah. That's what I think. We live in a day and age where we have options. Yeah. There's no reason to stop one part from enjoying what they enjoy if you still have the option available for you.
Right. Yeah. And let me ask this question, and then we'll talk about what Brian Rodman is doing.
We don't need to talk about
it. There's this issue, and I've been seeing it the last few years, where the whole thing about the male artist and the female artist, like certain artists shouldn't draw like women the way that they're drawing. And Ozzy, I know you're an artist, and I mean you draw. I mean your women are great. I mean you draw everybody great, but there's that conversation where like certain men, like Ozzy, shouldn't be drawing women like that. So you guys want to chime in on the whole, like it should be a female artist drawing females like that, or I mean,
like Willow said, like I mean, and I'll always say this: for every person that's offended by a way a certain female character is portrayed, whether her outfit is too skimpy or her pose is too sexy, there's just as many girls taking patterns of that outfit to cosplay her, or even find a way to sexualize that outfit further. So. It comes down to what Brian also said. There's a market for everything. And for you to weaponize it in a way that just because you find it offensive, everybody should find it offensive is bullshit. Because I know enough women who love these characters the way that they are because they find empowering, because they find an escape from being, surrounded by just freaking potatoes all day. And then all of a sudden you have your little Baywatch moment with your escapist fantasy where everybody looks like a goddamn Greek god. Because that's the whole point of fantasy, to get away from the normal constraints. Mm-hmm. If you have to adhere to normal constraints in order for you to exercise your fantasy scenarios, then you've already failed as a fantasy artist. Because that's the whole point of fantasy. I don't want a He-Man that looks like me. I want a He-Man that looks like freaking Dolph Lundgren on steroids. because that's what somebody that I feel is the embodiment of a friggin' hero looks like. And yes, he's half naked because people that are badasses don't need armor. So I'm sorry, but like, you know, for every girl that's like, oh no, look how that's unrealistic. I'm like, well, then tell that to Conan, He-Man, Thundar, Brave Star, Lansar. Like seriously, almost every male character also comes with that over the top execution that takes you away from your mundane bullshit existence and puts you in a world where these characters are the norm, where it's okay to run around half naked in a city blasting people with fucking eye lasers.
Well, I would even say, like, you know, it's not even just the half naked part. Like, you look at, like, you may not have skin showing, but half the Batman art that I have on my wall back here is literally like it looks like he doesn't have a shirt on, but it's painted gray.
Yeah,
You know,
that's even more ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true.
The idea that Batman's muscles would be so big that you could actually see them through his outfit.
The definition of
unrealistic.
it's like, come on, man. Like, no,
I mean,
that's not
I'm from the
real.
Jim Lee era, so yeah, I mean, I learned to draw anatomy just by watching people wearing costumes because there was just straight up naked anatomy going on in a bodysuit. And then, you know, you see somebody like Alex Ross and makes everybody look like the 70s Batman, like the 60s Batman, and I'm like, oh, yeah, well, that's still how it's supposed to look, you know. But then you go back to Jim Lee, and the veins are literally imprinted into the costume. And then it was our norm. So, yeah.
And I love people wearing morph suits, but for God's sake, please wear a dance belt.
You mean a nut pouch to just camouflage the surrounding? Yeah, I hear you.
I see we have Chuck in thought here.
Yes. Deep
I'm just listening.
See,
Chuck's like, I'm gonna write a blog about this tonight.
but I'm the mom who has to take my sons to conventions where these girls are dressing up.
Oh yeah.
And I have to remind them, and I soon will probably remind them much, much more. It's coming. But you know, like, consent is important. Like, I think these are all tools that we should be using to teach kids or to teach people how to live in this world where, I'm sorry, but sex sells, and sex is sold for the last 50 years. That's why there were pinups. That's why girls look for ways to come up with a sexy costume for whatever. I mean, that's why they do it. And so as sexy gets you looked at, sexy gets you, sexy makes money.
Yeah.
So I have to teach my boys, it's like, you can't just look at somebody's butt, because essentially where my children stand, it's essentially where these girls' butts are.
That's their eye level, yeah.
You know, so I mean, I have less problem with boobs and butts hanging out than I do. Okay, I don't know a girl who can run in heels like that. So the fact that those boots look the way they do, that's my problem with, like, that's unrealistic. But I understand why it's unrealistic.
Of course, it's escapism.
It's like, everybody has their thing. I'm like, I get it. Boobs make you female.
But see, personal responsibility comes into play as well, because you're not going to see anything in a convention that you wouldn't see at the beach. So if you don't have a child that's equipped to handle this kind of skin, then, where's the middle ground when everything is just offensive? Like, you also as a parent have to let them know this is okay. Just respect it. You can't just go around touching it or looking at it, staring at it like it's, oh no, you have to respect that there is a person behind that butt. Right. And that's it. It all comes down to how you handle it as a person and how you equip the children to handle it. Because
but I think a lot of people get all upset about it is because there isn't that kind of conversation.
There isn't that accountability, exactly.
It's like you don't hold your kid accountable for the facts, so that's why you got these kids wandering around thinking they can
Or you as a city parent not preparing them for these kind of interactions because they're going to happen. Like, what is he supposed to do when he finally gets a girlfriend? Oh no, you got it. This is okay.
And I think we have to normalize things, but we also have to say, okay, well, this is the situation that it's in. So, like, you'll find people like this in a situation like a comic book, and you'll see people like this at conventions, and you'll see this at the beach, and you'll see this if you go to the Riviera, you'll see something completely different because the rules are different everywhere we go. But we don't teach our kids how to do anything. We don't teach our kids how to code switch into any situation. We're just like, okay, well, they're going to be an asshole here, and they're going to be an asshole here, and they're going to be an asshole here, and nobody's ever going to check them on their bullshit. So it is what it is. Well, that's why we have continually the problem that is. This is not that the kids don't understand, it's that nobody taught them. There's no book that says this is how you should be around a naked woman.
Exactly.
Because naked women are taboo, or they're
something to cover up.
You know, I
have always I've collected the sexy type of magazines for several years. Heavy metal has I loved heavy metal as movie. I love the heavy metal art in the magazines, and the fact that it actually promotes indie comics is another reason why I love it so much. And then as I grew to appreciate more and more indie comics, I've also learned to appreciate more and more other people's art and storytelling.
Yeah, you see where this conversation went? We got Chuck, who's thinking about writing a blog tonight, and then now Ozzy's drinking. So
it's spiraled.
I really think that this.
Hold on. No, go ahead, Brian.
No, I think it like everything else in life provides a teaching moment, right? Like you have to be able to communicate. Okay, this is a real life situation that you're going to come across, and you know, if you want to, I think there are obviously age appropriate places to go and not go, but like, you know, if you take your kids to a Comic-Con, explain to them beforehand, hey, you're going to see this stuff. Utilize that as a teaching moment. And, you know, I mean, my parents really did that with me when I was a kid with movies, right? Like there were some movies that my parents didn't want me to watch. I watched half of them anyway. But you know, like there were like plenty of things that I came across as a young child watching, you know, some PG-13, some rated R movies that my parents would just say, hey, that thing right there, let's talk about it for a minute. And that's how I learned. That way, when I came out into the real world, I wasn't overwhelmed with everything because I had somebody helping me figure it out at a young age. And I feel like that's why if you just like shelter somebody and go off on an Amish community somewhere, you know, it's just when that person is released into the world, they're overwhelmed and they go crazy. So
it's exactly Catholic upbringing, you know, and I think that's what created the appreciation I have for the more adult-oriented medium, because for me it was taboo, for me it was unavailable, for me it was not allowed. And then when I grew up and I realized not only it should be available, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, and it's awesome because it literally put into page and paper things that even I as a creator was frustrated not seeing. And then I realized after I went into the world, oh shit, this is normal. And it made me not only love it, but appreciate it for what it is. Because I feel like a lot of people are so fucking sheltered that then all of a sudden sci-fi comes in and sneaks in something like Flash Gordon or Slave Leia. And then all of a sudden it becomes, you know, pop culture iconography. But it's because it caught an entire generation off balance because they weren't expecting this level of sexuality in front of pop culture. And it's like, it's okay, that's good. But now, you know, Lucasfilms is ashamed of Slave Leia. Hasbro has discontinued the toy. We're no longer going to produce it. Meanwhile, every freaking Star Wars convention, there's a Slave Leia pack of like every girl cosplayer that gets together for a gigantic Slave Leia shoot.
Ozzy, you'd appreciate this comment here.
Where? Oh,
Ozzy is definitely the evil CEO of a corporation if he was in a comic book.
I know.
Okay, shameless parenting here.
Okay.
Because this is what it is. So my children have watched the Harley cartoon.
Oh.
And they love it. But in the defense of all parents out there that are like me and apparently bad moms, but there is nothing that they've seen in that cartoon that they haven't heard as far as like curse words and things potentially come out of my mouth at any given time or while I'm driving.
But they love Kite Man's hilarious.
So where they might not see or understand a lot of the innuendo that shows up in it, there are little things that I think they kind of say, oh, that's a sex thing. I don't think they say, well, that's a sex thing.
Don't underestimate the cesspool of ignorance and fucked upness that is the schoolyard as well. I mean, these kids aren't sitting there playing Kumbaya either.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I understand that my kids are going to see it in lots of different places. So before somebody freaks out at the fact that I showed them this cartoon, that's not a cartoon. And by the way, there's been plenty of cartoons that were cartoons but not appropriate for children in the last 40 years.
Yeah, Looney Tunes.
You know, like we have to understand that parenting is all encompassing. It's like all the things that our kids see. It's like I can't shelter them from everything. So if they see Harley and Ivy have a scene or a situation or whatever, then there is a topic to have a conversation. If there's like the little guy, if he says something, you know, off color and, you know, something, then there's a conversation that follows some of that. And then there's a conversation that follows that if it gets repeated and they don't understand what it meant.
Yeah.
So
it's not about sheltering them from the world. It's about preparing them for it.
Yeah.
So I mean, we got to teach them what to do when they come up with those things. Like at my house, you know what, any mom who knows this, like if you think you're going to ever go to the bathroom with the door shut ever again after you have children, you might as well just give it up. Like, I don't understand why you would even try. Like, I don't shut the door anymore because why?
Yeah. So my wife and I, we never censored ourselves around our kids. And all you have to do is tell your kids there's stuff that's appropriate for home and there's stuff that's appropriate for school. Yeah. And neither one of our kids have ever had any there's never been once in the 12 years plus that they've been in school where a teacher said, oh, so your kid said something inappropriate at school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's also that element of like, ooh, only at home. There's like a, you know, secret club kind of element to it that they also enjoy. So
okay, so Ozzy, you said that you weren't allowed to watch R-rated movies when you were a kid. I wasn't either, and my wife and I were talking about this the other day. Don't you wish you could go back in time and realize how lame some of these movies that you wanted to see are?
You know what? I got that. Yeah, yes, exactly. It happened because I remember I was being babysat with my brothers, and the babysitter was watching Terminator, the first one. And so, like, all of a sudden, the bridge scene is about to happen, and they kicked me out of there. And I'm like, oh, I couldn't see it. I was a kid. As I grew up, I finally saw the whole fucking cut. And I'm like, well nothing happened. Yeah. Like, seriously, just a tin pop. Oh, no. You know. Meanwhile, I go to my friend's house, and he's like, I got RoboCop.
RoboCop is a good one.
Watching RoboCop and seeing Murphy get blasted, that just stuck with me as a kid. I was like, holy fuck.
I mean, I know just the premise of RoboCop is so tailor-made for a little kid.
Yeah, I love it.
It's not appropriate for little kids. Like, it makes sense that they did end up making an animated TV show out of RoboCop.
There's a commercial appeal that if this was Japan, it would have been a success because Japan don't give a fuck.
I watched the TV show, okay?
Yeah. I did too, and I wish I didn't. But yeah, even worse, I saw the TV show, that live action one.
I got to run a couple promos here, and then I got to hop into Brian Rodman's journey, and then there's a few other things we'll talk about after that. But
I'm gonna get a drink then.
Oh, we take breaks? Damn, I shouldn't have gone then.
I'm GW Pomacher.
I'm Dina Marie. I'm Sage Ia.
I'm Thomas Carter Rochester.
Hey, I'm David Thompson.
Hi, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Mia.
Hi, I'm Mark.
Hey there, this is Dave Adams.
Hi, I'm Rosemary Rose.
Jerome Conner here. Hey guys, it's Josh Bauer.
Willow Schuyler.
I'm Cosplay Michael.
It's your boy Country.
I'm Ryan Permison.
And I'd like to ask you guys, please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Please subscribe. Please
Subscribe.
subscribe.
Please subscribe to HWWS
Web TV.
Great bunch of people.
and don't forget to smash the bell.
Ring that bell. Smash that bell.
Hit that bell.
Hit the bell to be notified.
Hit the bell to get notified of new shows
And videos. You're going to want to do that, so do that soon. So we can cross that 20,000 mark.
And get us to 100,000 subscribers
To 1 million and 10 million and 100 million.
on HWWS.
Web TV.
You really like it. I guarantee it.
Thank you.
Welcome, Glasscock Park, to this glorious day.
Today is your lucky day. We got some great stuff. This is Glasscock Park.
Marvelous. Thank you.
Come on, let's go. I don't have all day, people.
Now, it's time.
Tell your friends, huh?
Oh dear.
Oh yeah, that is a scripted series coming to our podcast network here. So
Nice.
looking forward to that.
So I sat and watched the commercials and forgot to fill my drink.
Ah. Well, I can run another promo here. Promo right here. And Brian, I think you know this guy.
Hey there, friends and foes. This is John Pica, the prophet of pop culture. I'm the host of the Back of the Cereal Box podcast, but right now you are watching and listening to one of the best shows on the internet. Ooh, yeah, Reels and Heels. Dig it!
Oh, John.
Ooh, yeah.
So, Brian Rodman, who funded, wow, can we say in less than 12 hours for the Nebulizer?
Yeah. That was really awesome. Actually, we just launched the Nebulizer yesterday, and it funded in less than 12 hours, which is it's just so cool. I said this in a post last night, but like I really have to give a shout out to all our backers who, you know, with our previous Kickstarter campaigns for Memoirs of an Angel and now with the Nebulizer, they make the stress of having a campaign just melt away in the first day. Like they, you know, it's I can't. We've had one campaign that took 16 hours to fund. The rest of them were under 12 hours or less. And it's really our backers, man. They show up, they get it back, and then they just share away, and they bring new people into the fray. And I really can't say enough about them. They're the bread and butter behind our ability to continue to make comics, and I love them all dearly so much. So yeah, we got funded really quick yesterday, and just to let everybody know, you know, I've been making a series called Memoirs of an Angel. It's a horror fantasy series. A part of the pitch is essentially like it's Lord of the Rings meets The Exorcist. This has been a passion project of mine for many, many years. You know, as I was actually going to seminary for a while to go into biblical counseling, youth ministry, do stuff like that. That right there, that is actually the black and white issues. I made this when I didn't know how to make comics. This was literally like the very first thing I did, and I was like, I want to make a comic book, and I sat down on a couple panels, and I made this guy, and there's many reasons why it'll never be printed again.
That's exactly how you want to advertise it. I didn't know shit.
This is what I'll say is it, you know, Brian actually has the colorized version, the new and improved version of that. But the black and whites, they're good for collector's items. There's a reason I went back and redid them all and, you know, proceeded further in color, and I actually knew what I was doing when I did that for the most part. So but yeah, I was on a track to go into vocational ministry, and this was always in the back of my mind, just kind of stewing. And I was in like lectures and things like that, and you could see like my notes from those days, like in the margins and things. I'll just have like little Memoirs of an Angel notes, and eventually ended up going on a different track, and ended up making comics, and it's been a wild ride. It's a lot of fun. This particular series, Memoirs of an Angel, is it's about a ragtag group of infinite and finite beings who race through time and space to save a broken and bitter witch hunter from the clutches of the Dark Kingdom. And it's very much like if you those climactic, crazy, intense scenes of The Exorcist. If you pulled back the curtain and saw what the spiritual realm was doing during that time, that's what Memoirs of an Angel is. But now we have just launched a brand new series that looks absolutely nothing like Memoirs of an Angel, where Memoirs of an Angel is dark and gritty and very serious and deep, theological things that you explore. The Nebulizer is about a chronic asthmatic and his feisty AI-controlled nebulizer suit as they fight through a post-apocalyptic world filled with allergen mutants. So
I love that concept, and the costume would be easy enough for anybody nowadays to do it.
Could I just say, based on your description and the art that you have already, I would love to see an Ozzy cover in the future.
I know why. It reminds me of that what was it, that Captain Colgate or something against the cavity creeps. I'm like, that sounds very commercially appealing, and all you need to do is put a product behind it, and you are banking, my friend.
Absolutely, dude. It's so funny that you bring that up, because as a kid, I was just like sitting in the dentist chair, like, this would be a fun series to do. And so those ideas definitely carried over into adulthood, as you can see.
I am an encyclopedia of useless knowledge, man.
Me too, man. We get along just great.
Oh man.
But no, like it's very much, because I have chronic asthma very, very badly. I have since I was a little kid, and it sucked. Obviously, there are times where I can't do a thing, but it really has, especially in the pandemic. I was so high risk. My doctor, I was like, can I go to bookstores, because that's kind of my happy place? I'll just put a mask on. He looked at me. He didn't say yes or no. He looked at me and said, "You will be on a ventilator if you get this." And I was like, "Oh crap!" So like over the last year, I really kind of just really poured myself into my work, and this came out of it. It really just you look at a lot of asthmatics. A lot of asthmatics are kind of the butt of the joke, things like that in culture. You see that happen a lot, or at least I've experienced it in my life. And some of it is really, really funny. And so, I kind of took that humor that is applied to asthmatics and added a badassery factor to it, where, Connor, the guy inside the nebulizer suit, he is absolutely helpless without that suit on. The air would literally kill him. But with it on, he's invulnerable. And there was a nuclear blast in this story that essentially took everything on the microscopic level and it mutated it with the macro level. So you get these mutant allergen, like dust mite people that, are essentially zombies, but they look like giant mutations of microscopic germs and things like, and allergens. And the things that would kill him, he can now kill them back. And so that was just kind of a thing that it was kind of my fun way of having some therapy with my asthma and allergies.
It's kind of like the quadriplegic and an exosuit kind of trope.
Yeah, very much so. It's essentially just, and that's basically how you just turn a frown upside down, is how I say. But really, it's a ton of fun. The story, the witty banter between Connor and his AI suit Albie, I think is both. It's going to really make you laugh, but it's also going to tug at your heartstrings in many different places as well. The theme of this series is having ridiculous, nonsensical fun with a purpose. There is a story, there is underlining themes of family and friendship and what that actually looks like, but it's sugar coated with bright colors and just silliness, that really is for all ages. I really wanted to make this. I wanted to take, the cartoons that I grew up with in the 90s that, they weren't like the Don Bluth stuff, even Batman the Animated Series, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like those kind of things that you dealt with. They didn't shy away from some violence. They didn't shy away from some deep, storytelling ideas. But it was also age appropriate, for pretty much anybody. And that's really what I wanted to do here with this series. Is the worst thing you're going to see is monster guts. And if you don't like monster guts, I don't know what to say to you. So
Brian, I think you and I would have been best friends in school, because this so suits my comedy.
It doesn't talk down to or condescend to its audience.
No,
it
not
seems
at
to be
all.
happening a lot lately.
Yeah. And I really wanted to fight back against that as far as the storytelling and what the artwork as well. And my art style is very, especially my coloring is very cel shaded. I really pull from the old animation stuff, much like that cover,
Same, exactly.
I love that art style, and I really, the stories that I produce, that's how they play out in my head, is that animation looking, style. So yeah, we launched yesterday. We are already funded and we're working on stretch goals for the Nebulizer. Yeah, go out and tell the world and back it. And we have digital rewards. And we have, I always like to, with the stretch goals, I always like to incorporate our international backers in mind right now, because with, the pandemic and international shipping being what it is right now, we really did limit where we ship to. So all of our stretch goal rewards are also going to be offered in digital form as well. So that way, yes, you do digital comics if you're international. That's a way to read the story, but you're also going to get a lot of cool stuff too. And the really cool thing about this campaign, and unfortunately this part can't be digital, is bless you. This is the first time we've done a toy line, which is really cool. We partnered with O Toys, and we have a line of action figures. We have a cool picture of that on the campaign site as well on Kickstarter. And it's a lot of fun. It's limited to 10. There are 2 left. So yeah, if you're interested in that level, scurry quickly, because they're
the action figure is very similar to Super 7. The retro figures that they do.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's similar to the Kenner toys as well. Just like the design of them. I really like that. I thought it was a really cool retro look as well. So yeah, Damian Walburn and Lauren Walburn at O Toys do a fantastic job. They've already partnered with multiple indie creators to do this very thing on Kickstarter exclusive, small batch toy runs. And I really think they've got something special here, because they're fantastic at what they do.
Yeah. So we've learned a lot from everybody in this conversation, but now it's time to have some more fun here. So my question, and this is to everyone, if you were to exist in a universe right now, Star Wars, Marvel, DC, Lord of the Rings, wherever, where would you want to be? And we'll start with, Brian, we'll start with you.
Oh, man. I would say Lord of the Rings, but they don't have air conditioning, so screw that. I would probably say I'd probably say Star Wars. Honestly, I think that'd be the most fun. Not in the Empire ruled era. I think that would be just a nice cozy Republic, owned Star Wars universe. I think that'd be fun. Off the top of my head, that's really all I can think of, because I feel
what would a Brian Rodman in the Star Wars universe look like?
A Wookiee, probably.
A Wookiee.
Yeah, I just walk around, So I feel like that's I'm halfway there now. So I think that's probably what I'll just walk around. I'd be a Wookiee. I think that'd be fun.
What about you, Chuck?
Yeah. See, I thought Star Wars too. Just because so many of these universes, they have, immediately I was like, ooh, I'd love to be in the X-Men universe, but like, you could still just be a fucking nobody, you know, like working at McDonald's in the fucking X-Men universe. Meanwhile, you know, fucking Quicksilver and I don't know, Wolverine run by, and you're like, all right, good for you guys. So, like, there's nothing special. At least, like, even in fucking Star Wars, if you're stuck on a shitty backwards planet, you're still like somewhere cool that you've never been before. Like, all right, I'm stuck on Dagobah, but I've never been here before. So what's this like? So I think I would probably be a smuggler. I think that's kind of the sort of guy I am. I see shitty rules and think, hey, there's a way around that, and I could be that thing.
Oh my God! What about you, Ozzy?
No, see, I agree, because, I mean, in any other universe, I would just like, oh, I love Transformers. What the fuck am I going to be in a Transformers universe? Yeah. An extra? Like, you know, come on. So, yeah, no, Star Wars is the only universe that really lends itself, because, I mean, in Masters of the Universe, I'm just going to be an accessory. So it's like, you know, at least in Star Wars, you get to shine a little bit. So, you know, or Star Trek, but, I mean, I do like the aliens better in friggin' Star Wars. You know, it's a more visually appealing universe than Star Trek, even though the air conditioner looks fine in a starship. So,
I can imagine, though, in the Transformers universe, like, you know how, like, you have the Transformers right there, you're like, hey, wait, let me finish.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's like, oh, but you know, you could be a headmaster. No, I don't want to fold in myself to be somebody's head. No, screw that.
Or so, like, you know, like you look at the DC universe or something, like, oh, I'm driving down the road.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden you're used by Superman as a weapon to hit someone, and I'm like, well, now my car insurance.
No, exactly. Like, I mean, if Man of Steel taught us anything, is that in a DC universe, you're going to go through a lot of 9/11s. So it's like, you know, maybe it's okay if there's no such thing. You know, because, like, I mean, the DCU barely survived the Superman attack, and I'm like, oh, well, then shit. You know? So at least in Star Wars, I could at least still be a graphic designer for a hut, you know? And I'm getting paid good, and, you know, I'm surrounding myself to a lot of hot people. So, yeah, why not?
Well, like, in something like Star Trek, like even Sisko, who is considered one of the greatest, possibly one of the greatest captains of all time, his dad was a fucking cook. So, like, even in that universe, you could still be a nobody.
Exactly,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, at least in Star Wars, you're somewhere cool.
And I mean, I'd rather work for the Hutts than the Ferengis anyway. So it's like, and the Klingons don't look like good bosses. So it's like, you know, at least the Hutts know about how to party. So, you know, yeah, why not?
What about you, Grant?
Yeah, I don't want to live in the Star Wars universe because I don't want like Darth Vader and Boba Fett and those guys chasing me. I think it would be cool to be a Muppet.
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Oh, that's cool.
You like that answer?
I changed my answer now.
I am gonna say though, I learned something about Grant right now, because you have a really big ego, apparently, because who the fuck are any of us that Darth Vader or...
Well,
okay. I know!
More like
you seem like a good guy, but...
More like random stormtroopers. I don't need stormtroopers chasing me around.
I'm just going to be a Sith Lord target if I'm in Star Wars, so...
What about you, Willow?
Oh, you know, Grant just, you know, threw the X-Men under the bus for me. Like, here I am, you know, I fantasized about being part of the X-Men for like all my life, pretty much. And you know, being part of the school and everything. And then he goes and says that I can just still be working at Starbucks and be a mutant. So I don't know anymore.
I mean, in that universe, you're lucky to hold a job being a mutant. So yeah,
right.
Well, I have the stupidest mutant ability as it is. I mess with electronics, and you know, I'm lucky to even have a working cell phone half the time.
Girl, you'd be like a LifeLock's top 20 hunter.
This could be good though. Like we take Willow next to the ATM, and it just spits out money.
Oh,
no,
cool
it will shut down. That's the problem.
It's the opposite. It's not the good stuff.
Out of the blue, like things will just stop working around me. And it's
Well, hey,
it's
if
not
you read
even...
if you read the Dresden Files, then that means you're a wizard. Well done.
Exactly. I was almost on board with Grant's take, except I'm like, ooh, Dark Crystal. But then I remembered, wait a minute, everything can eat me in the Dark Crystal. So it's like, no.
Yeah, the Dark Crystal's been living in Australia. I'm out
yeah,
of that.
no, exactly. Like, no.
What about you?
Me?
Yes, you.
Oh my! So I want to say that I'd be a hunter in Supernatural, but I'm a pansy. So and I really am scared of the things that go bump in the night. So I don't know. I kind of like the whole Muppet thing because I really think that I make faces.
It's safe.
And I say dumb stuff. So yeah, I'd probably be a Muppet.
See, Nicole, you could be perfect in the Scooby-Doo network world because you can still be a hunter and be bad at it. That's okay, yeah.
I'll just be 800 pounds hanging out with Shaggy and Scooby. That's all.
Sounds like a life, man.
Only requirement there is to smoke weed, so.
Apparently.
What about you?
I mean, there's unlimited munchies, so yeah, you're in good company.
I think I'll just eat the food. Like, I have no need to smoke it. I'll just eat the food because there's always food. So,
I mean, what do you think Scooby snacks are? Shit, I wouldn't fight for a cookie.
Edibles.
They're edibles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't head into danger over a goddamn cookie unless it changed my entire perception of the situation. So it's like, yeah, no.
I have to go with most of the guys here and say Star Wars universe. It is a very awesome universe.
yeah, so what would you be?
Yeah.
I think I would. No, because now I'm going to sound, Chuck's going to say I'm a big ego because I'm going to say Jedi, but.
Okay.
But see, that's the thing. I always consider I'm not going to be the guy that's going to be like the guy in the X-Men universe with all these powers because I'm still me. So I'm still going to be like, I'm going to fight a motherfucker that can manipulate every metal. No, I'm out.
But here's the thing: everybody thinks that they can control what power they get if they are part of the X-Men universe, and no, you don't get to choose.
That's a good point, Willow. Because I always wanted to do a comic book series about all the mutants who have useless superpowers.
Yeah, exactly. I'll probably be the guy with the bubblegum farts or something. It's like,
there's that one guy. There's the one little kid in X-Men 2 who's just sitting there. Like every time he blinks, the channel changes on the TV. Like, knowing my luck, I would end up being that mutant. So I would get all the discrimination, but I wouldn't get all the cool superpowers that go along with the discrimination.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the coolest superpower to have, and this would be funny to not have control of it, is to make other people have instant diarrhea whenever you want. Because think about it, how many bank robberies could you stop if you were just in there and they were running in? I'm going to hold the bank up. Not anymore. You're not. Full of crap. You know what I mean? Like, that's going to stop you in your tracks right there.
You just have to be very successful at it because the moment they arrest you, they're going to put you in the deepest, darkest hole, devoid of any human interaction.
Okay. All right, so we need like either Brian or Chuck to write this and Ozzy to draw it. That's cool right there.
I think his worst enemy, though, is going to be someone with, like, IBS or something where they're like, I'm always ready for that. I don't give a shit. I'm wearing an adult diaper.
Yeah, that's my secret. I'm always having diarrhea.
Right? Like, what's your worst enemy? Depends,
You mean the adopter depends, whereas I was born from it.
Yeah, right. Well, and you know what? If you want to be a Jedi, I wouldn't talk shit about you. If you want to be a Jedi, that's fine. If Order 66 has anything to say, it's not necessarily going to end well for you. So you can be a Jedi.
It's like
I thought Nicole's reaction to Brian saying that he would be a Jedi was funny because you just like, oh,
we get the pick.
See, at least I understand my limitations. Like, they'll be honor in the Supernatural universe. But let's just face it, that ain't happening.
You just want to be there because of Dean Winchester.
Fuck yes.
Yeah, exactly.
In the car.
For different reasons, but I would want to be there for Dean Winchester too. That'd be cool to hang out with. I wouldn't be fawning over him the whole time. I'd be cracking jokes with him the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
So here's another fun question for you guys. I want to know, who are you looking at in the indie circuit right now that people should be looking at as well?
Oh man.
I would say two people, and they're the two people that I have gotten so far for variant covers, and that's Seth the Moose and Caitlin Smith. Both of them are fantastic individuals with extremely talented. Caitlin Smith's current series that she's actually wrapping up right now. My goodness, she just broke like records on Kickstarter the last time she ran one. It was a series called For Goodness Sake, and it's a ton of fun. She actually has her artwork's all over the place. So I think those two specifically. There are many others that I could think of, but off the top of my head, yeah, Seth the Moose and Caitlin Smith are rocking it right now.
What about you, Chuck?
Yeah, this is a tough one, but it's also easy. You guys know me, I work with a lot of people, but looking around, checking out the moves that are being made and what's doing, I would say it can all go back to one book. Go pick up No Heroine by Source Point Press.
Yeah.
Frank Gogol as a writer is making all the fucking moves. Between No Heroine, Dead End Kids, now he's been picked up to do work on Power Rangers. That guy is getting out there, and you're going to see him doing big things. So keep an eye on him. And doing.
Sorry, I'll. My husband's home.
Well, at least
honey, you need to shut the fuck up. And on interiors and doing covers for Dead End Kids is my boy Chris Mad, and his work is absolutely beautiful. It's so, perfectly rendered and detailed and beautiful, but also incredibly emotional. They've been showing off some stuff for the new No Heroine, and he has this great scene where it's the main character, and she basically, after this night of fighting like evil undead mer creatures, she goes to her bath, and it's the scene that normally anyone else would have really overly sexualized. She sits down in the bath and all that kind of stuff, and you're like, yay, tits and stuff, but it wasn't about that at all. You see the scars, the cuts, the look of weariness on her face. I'm lucky to be able to work with Chris on my piece for Cthulhu Invades Wonderland, and he is just absolutely so talented. So I would say watch those two guys. Something's going to happen there.
I echo Frank Gogol is awesome. I have all the No Heroines right now. It's, if you haven't read it, it is fantastic. It's like Buffy the Vampire Slayer on steroids. Like, it is
or
so
on heroin.
Well, I see what you did there. Yeah, no, really, it is really well thought out. The artwork is great. The story is fantastic. I'm so excited for where that series is going.
What about you, Ozzy?
Oh, I am devoid of an answer. I have been out of the loop for a while now because my career shifted, and I still do comic book work and stuff, but I'm working for a toy company, so I'm doing like art and package art and all that stuff for Heroes Toy Company, and so that and the pandemic just kind of took me out of the loop, so I wouldn't even know where to begin to see where the up and coming talent is coming. I mean, I can shamelessly plug Ivan Plaza and Cheeto Comics, who's coming out with a line of Puerto Rico heroes that I help do character designs for, and also my fellow publishing partner and his title Angels of the Seven Lights, which is really good, and I've done a couple of cover works for him still. But other than that, yeah, I mean, I've been out of the game, honestly, so I wouldn't know. I'm actually getting an education just hearing you guys out telling me who to look out for now, so I'm listening more than anything.
Grant, you have anybody out there that you want to?
Well, I think the next big star of the indie comic scene is Mooney, of course. But so I did a comic book convention this past weekend with a guy named Sean Gabarin. He has a comic book called Black Betty, which I really like. Besides the fact that he's a really nice guy, and he gave me some good advice about doing conventions and stuff. He has a new comic book. It's called Black Betty, which I think it's kind of similar to The Goon, if you guys like Eric Powell's comic The Goon. It's about this lady named Black Betty, and she has a shotgun that goes blam ba blam, just like the song. And she goes around hunting monsters. It's neat. I think, contrary to what we were talking about earlier, she has a relatively more realistic body shape than most comic books, which, to be honest with you, that's my cup of tea. And what else? I've only read the first volume of the comic book, and there's still a lot of mysteries and secrets that haven't been unraveled. But she goes around hunting monsters for profit, and every time she kills a new monster, she gets a new tattoo appears on her arm. So I have a feeling that they're going to reveal why that happens and in future volumes. It's an interesting concept. I liked it.
That actually, you got me hooked there.
That's my
Okay, that sounds interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of Demon Knight with the stars manifesting.
Yeah.
So I know I talked to you, Chuck, a few days ago about this one, but I'm going to change it up a little bit. But I do want to say that we agreed that probably mainstream right now, Donny Cates is probably the guy. But I'm going to ask 5, the top 5 creators. They could be creators that are out now that are not indie, so mainstream. And we'll start with you, Chuck.
I don't keep track of mainstream at all. To be fair, my heart.
They don't have to be like today. I mean, if there is somebody, if you know somebody today, they can be on the list. But your top 5 creators.
Oh, so my goats, so to speak, as far as creators. Okay, so when he was at his best, because we got to watch him fall as well, Chris Claremont is my go-to for writers, watching what he did and how he created and looped everything together and all that kind of stuff. Guys like John Byrne, even, newer guys who are able to bring in their own sense of style and fun. Like, I love Joey Mad. If he could actually fucking keep his mind on one project and keep doing it, then that could be really exciting. Like, if someone could keep him chained down to one thing, that could be really interesting, and I'd love to see that.
You also have to remember, Joe Maduro makes one T-shirt design and makes more money off of that than 3 or 4 comic books.
Yeah.
Well,
That's his video game gigs,
I get it, but your heart's where your heart is. You know what I mean? Like, if you love something, you would find the time for it. So, and it's not against him. He's doing what he loves and he's happy, so that's fine. It's just hard for me as a fan to get onto something like they're talking about Battle Chasers coming back, and I'm like, so, unless I know that the first 12 issues are already written, I'm just gonna wait for the trades, man. Like,
you've hurt me too much, Joey. I don't trust you anymore. Yeah, exactly.
He has been hurt. He has been hurt. So I think those are a bunch of my big ones. I love the Kubert brothers. I loved ever since being an X-Men fan, watching one on Wolverine and the other on X-Men. That was always good to me, and I'm a huge X fan. So guys like that, that's kind of where I'd be at for my favorites.
What about you, Ozzy?
Gonagai, Jim Lee, Alan Davis, Alan Moore, of course. Alan Davis, man, oh my God, such a gorgeous, phenomenal art style. Like, I even told him in a thread over something he posted the other day, I have never seen anybody shoot devastating hand blast with such grace, the way that he draws every fight scene, every dynamic pose. It's all very regal. And in a day and age where cross-hatching was the excuse to hide musculature, he didn't shy away from it. He showed every piece of anatomy to the point where you could appreciate that midsection that even Jim Lee and would just cross-hatch the shit out of. You know, he would show you everything, and it looked so beautiful. And he never wavered in his style, both in writing and in art. And it's just,
yeah, that's the other thing. He could always also write too. Like,
and he is, like, seriously, he's one of the few Marvel creators that finished his run, because his Excalibur run had a beginning, middle, and end, and you don't see that in Marvel at all.
That's rare. Yeah,
that is super rare, and it's like a 50+ run. Like, it's crazy. I'm like, holy shit. Yeah, no, like, hats off. Joe Mad, of course, because he was also an influence in my style. Jim, and I mean, if you were an artist in the 90s, you were either a Jim Lee clone or a Joe Mad clone, or, you know,
Todd McFarlane.
So, yeah, or Todd McFarlane, exactly. So, you know, and Todd McFarlane had too much of a graffiti style for me to just like get into, but I appreciated the detail work he had.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty much those are my go-to guys when it comes to like influences and things that I appreciate, even though I agree some of them I have seen their downfall, you know. Jim Lee being the exception. He basically took over the world, literally.
He doubled down on his success.
Oh my
actually,
God,
yeah.
like, hats off, man.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I may not agree with most of the choices he does for DC, but you know what? Fuck it, you paid your dues. You do you.
He's such a cool dude.
Yeah,
you know,
like,
he's down to earth. He's not super egotistical. Like he's a really humble guy.
Yeah. And he comes from that Millionaires Club era where like all of these other artists kind of did get an ego, but he always stayed humble, you know. So
what about you, Brian?
I'd say top is always Mike Mignola for me. I think, in my opinion, dude is just a masterful storyteller. And I love his I think his art style has influenced so many people in the last 2 decades that it's just insane. I'm a huge, massive Hellboy fan, and just everything he does is great for me. I would also say Neil Gaiman is an amazing storyteller. Just pretty much anything he does. His latest book, you know, the Norse mythology that you just got adapted into a comic series is fantastic. I think it's one of the best things out right now. I would say, let's see, I cheated a little bit and pulled up a couple people. Andrew McLean, who is doing Headlopper. I think he's heavily influenced by Mignola, but my gosh, like, dude is just killing it. I love just the fun ridiculousness of his series. And I would also say the creators of a series called Birthright from Image. It's they're in the Skybound, essentially the Skybound publishing corner of that, and it's Joshua Williamson and Andre Bresson do that series. It is so much fun. I don't know if you guys have picked that up or not, but it is about a little boy who gets transported into another realm, into a high fantasy realm, and he was supposed to be, he's the chosen one to save this fantasy realm from evil, and he ends up doing the opposite. And then after all of that, he comes back as he's been gone in our time. He's been gone for like a year or two, and he comes back as a 35-year-old man who's like a warrior conqueror. And his parents have been looking for him, and it's a really cool, there's a lot more going on in that series, and I think that's probably one of the best high fantasy comic book series I've ever read. And
wasn't Josh on the Flash? Didn't he work on the Flash?
Yes, he worked on the Flash for a while. Yeah. And it just really great storyteller. And then I'd also have to say Todd McFarlane and Bruce Timm. Both of them, I really appreciate.
Yes.
I appreciate not only their art styles, but their visionaries. Both of them have, you know, in very similar ways, just kind of started off at the bottom tier of doing either animation or comics and built an empire.
Yeah, no, like they say, talk about contributing to the zeitgeist. You know, like these guys defined an entire generation of media. You know?
Yeah, and Bruce Timm's coming back for the new Batman on HBO Max.
So excited! Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited! Batman, the Caped Crusader, and they're going back to like the classic Batman look. I'm so excited about it. So. Yeah, that's.
I forgot to add, Joe Linsner.
Yeah.
Like I've always,
yes,
Don has always been a major influence both in story and art. Like he just nailed every time he does something. Even when he was doing Cry for Dawn stuff, it was just like very influential, and he has always remained consistent too, which I appreciate. Same with Mignola. Mignola has always remained consistent. He may not oversaturate the market with product, but he has been consistent throughout the years and decades as a solid creator.
Because he doesn't oversaturate, I think that's
it
why
creates the demand for it. Yeah.
Whenever something comes out of his, everybody flocks to it because
exactly.
He's like it's like when an artist drops an album. He's like, wait a minute, oh, I got to rush to it. So
yeah, oh no, Tool's coming out with a new album. Wait. yeah, same energy. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I'm surprised nobody, went with, I guess the cliche answer of like Kirby and Shooter.
Well, you didn't get to me yet. I was.
I'm
gonna. Kirby was gonna be my
like,
first.
Don't worry,
pick.
I'm gonna get to those guys.
Go ahead, Grant.
Well, I mean, obviously,
now.
I think the stuff that Jack Kirby did influenced everybody in terms of storytelling. There are people still to this day who have built. He's kind of like the Beatles in the way that one Beatles song. There are bands that could pick apart that one Beatles song and build an entire career off of it. The same way that there are artists who have taken one little aspect of Jack Kirby's style and built an entire career out of it.
Mike Mignola being one of them.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
You played all night.
I would say Mike Mignola would be on my list just because of what he's done with Hellboy. It's been so much fun for 25 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So my all-time favorite artist of all time is Bill Sienkiewicz. To me, there's never been an artist that stylistically different than everything else in the medium that they're working in. Like in that Elektra Assassin miniseries where he was like actually using photographic mashups, that you never saw stuff like that in comic books back in like the early 80s. His style was just so out there. And I have a lot of respect for guys who are like in their late 70s and are still working and still putting out new stuff. So I'm gonna put both Richard Corbin and Barry Windsor Smith on my list, just for the fact that
I didn't even know Corbin was still at it.
No, Richard Corbin is dead, but he was working up right up until he died. But I mean, Richard Corbin was working right up until he died. And the stuff that he was doing didn't look like nostalgia pieces. He did a comic book. He did an Incredible Hulk comic book with Brian Azzarello, and it was super. It was super cool. It didn't feel like a nostalgia piece.
That's really cool. So, as we wind down here, I'm going to go around. Where can everybody be found on social media? And we'll start with you, Grant.
So on Facebook, I'm Grant Lankard. I'm the only Grant Lankard on Facebook.
There can be only one.
Right.
do you come with the Queen soundtrack too? Then?
Oh God, I wish. Like if that just played when I walked in the doorway. Can you imagine how cool that would be?
Oh man,
Grant.
So my website is monarchpublishing.net. You can get on there. You can sign up for my newsletter. My most recent interview on my newsletter was with a woman named Willow, if any of you know who that is. And if you sign up for the newsletter, you're going to get a free sample of Beowulf. You're going to get a free comic book that comes with a free sample of Beowulf. So it's about 20 pages of content, all for free.
Nice.
That's awesome. And I want to thank you for joining us. I always love listening to creatives talk about their journey and what they're up to. And there we go. See, Willow, you're so good. That's why everybody loves you.
When I'm on the ball, yes, it works.
What about you, Ozzy? Where can people find you on the interwebs?
Ozzy Fernandez over on Facebook, or Art of Ozzy Fernandez. Same with Instagram and Twitter. And yeah, just doing my thing. Working at the toy company, doing some freelance work, commission work. I'm gonna continue doing. I got a pending cover for Angels of Seven Lights again for Panico Press. And yeah, just staying busy. Like the plate is full, thankfully. So
that's great.
Yeah. Find me there, follow me there, and bug me there. You're all welcome.
And Brian, what about you?
You can head over to brianrodman.com, and that's essentially a one-stop shop. You can go there on the main page. We have a link to the Kickstarter that's going right now. We have a link to all social media stuff. You can also find me. I'm 1/3 of the Dastardly Dingoes podcast on YouTube. We're a show about all things nerdy, similar to this show as well, and we have a lot of fun. We're up to a bunch of different shenanigans right now. Me and Jeremy Woodring and Chad Nuss. I'm also 1/4 of Comic Book Spectrum on the Rising Tide Network with Brian K. Morris, Clyde Hall, and the Eric Hawkins. It is becoming one of the most fun moments of my week every single week. We just sit there, we review comics, and then afterwards we talk about comics and we laugh at how ridiculous we are. It is a fun show. I challenge everybody just to tune in on every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And Chuck, I know like you do everything, you're everywhere. So for those that don't know,
he took a deep breath, step back.
Oh boy! All right, what's up, guys? I'm Chuck Pineau, Pineau. You can find me on Facebook under that name. You can find me on Instagram under that name. You can find me on Twitter at Chucky Pin. You can find me on YouTube, Chuck's Raw Reviews, where I both review comics, and I also have a weekly talk show where I talk to creatives about their processes and how they create their amazing pieces. You can find us every Tuesday live at 9 Central, 10 Eastern, because Central should always come first. I'm so fucking tired of Eastern. And yeah, guys, I'm an editor, writer. You can find my publishing wing, Bonfire Press, on Facebook. And I just hope to see you guys around. And yeah, man. My name is Chuck, and I give
that's a goddamn pitch right there.
That's it, man.
That's how you do it.
That's how you do it, you kindergartners.
I've done this once before.
Just keep talking.
I've done this once before.
That is a man who's rehearsed every bit of lines in that statement.
So before we do go, I do want to talk about this and Nicole too, because this is kind of her degree in teaching is early childhood, and we all kind of grew up with this man. He, the very hungry caterpillar, brown bear, the very busy spider. Yeah.
And there's a tortoise and a fox one, which the titles are escaping me right now.
But he passed away. He was 91. He passed away this week.
But so it's kind of sad at the same vein, but it's like we understand that they can't create forever, but he will live on in all of his stories. So, and we continue to tell them and read them to our children. Hopefully, it will continue on to the next generation as well. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading up. He has sold over 170 million children's books.
Yeah, even I was familiar with it. So it's one of those basic to buy books when you have kids,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and it's like from an art standpoint because he collaged, and from a standpoint of what the stories we're telling, it's like it's very There are stories you could talk about with very young children, and then, as ages progress, and talk about themes throughout the rest of them. Because I also use picture books with kids that were struggling readers as they got older, looking for the meaning in those books, because books we know don't just translate to one, they're not one note. Like one group of kids don't read it and get the same thing out of it. So I don't think that anybody ever read The Very Hungry Caterpillar and just thought about it in terms of being a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
But our thoughts and prayers are with his family, and he's lived a long life, and he will be remembered forever. I mean, his books are always iconic. You can always find them at a bookstore. Yeah. Very iconic.
Yeah.
So thank you, gentlemen, for joining. And of course, Jeni had to go to a graduation earlier, so she had to hop out. It was nice having her on there. And like we do every week, it's time to ring that bell.